Selamat siang, Bapak Ibu. Izinkan kami dari Bahasa Global untuk membacakan panduan penggunaan fitur penerjemahan pada acara hari ini. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Allow us from Bahasa Global to present the user guide on how to use the interpretation feature for the meeting today. Dan berikut adalah panduan dan pengaturan dalam Zoom webinar hari ini. Mohon pada saat masuk ke Zoom webinar, klik Join Audio. Mohon panelis mute mikrofon bila sedang tidak berbicara dan selalu menyalakan video selama webinar berjalan. Mohon mengakses Zoom dari koneksi internet yang stabil. Mohon bila berbicara dari ruangan tanpa suara latar. Mohon bila Bapak atau Ibu mengakses Zoom webinar ini berdekatan dengan laptop atau gawai lain untuk dapat menggunakan headset, karena bila tidak dapat menyebabkan gaung atau feedback. Mohon pastikan telah mengunduh atau menggunakan aplikasi Zoom terkini supaya fitur interpretation ini tersedia di aplikasi Zoom Bapak Ibu. Ladies and gentlemen, when entering Zoom meeting, please click Join Audio. Please mute your microphone when you are not speaking and turn on your video for the whole duration of the meeting. Please access Zoom from a stable internet network. While you are speaking, please make sure there is no background noise. Avoid accessing Zoom nearby other users without using headset because it might cause echo or feedback noise. In order for this interpretation feature to be available in your devices, please make sure that you are using the updated Zoom application. Selanjutnya, berikut adalah panduan cara mengaktifkan fitur penerjemahan apabila Bapak atau Ibu menggunakan laptop atau PC. Pada bagian pojok kanan bawah akan terdapat lambang bola dunia. Mohon untuk diklik Language Interpretation dan memilih bahasa yang Bapak atau Ibu ingin dengarkan. Mohon tidak perlu mute original audio dan tidak perlu pindah channel saat berbicara. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are accessing the Zoom using a laptop or PC, simultaneous interpretation services are available. You can go to the bottom right of your screen. There you will find globe icon or language interpretation button. Click it and select the language that you wish to listen. We recommend you to not mute original audio, and if you would like to speak, you don't have to turn off the interpretation button as well. Dan selanjutnya, apabila Bapak atau Ibu mengakses meeting kali ini menggunakan HP atau mobile phone, fitur penerjemahan secara simultan juga tersedia. Bila Bapak atau Ibu ke pojok kanan bawah akan ada 3 titik. Jika diklik akan ada Language Interpretation, lalu klik pilih bahasa yang Bapak atau Ibu ingin dengarkan. Bapak dan Ibu tidak perlu mute original audio dan terakhir jangan lupa klik Done bila sudah selesai. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're accessing the Zoom using a mobile phone, simultaneous interpretation services are available. You can go to the bottom right of your screen. There you'll find 3 dots. Click it and click Language Interpretation and select the language that you wish to listen. We also recommend you to not mute original audio and don't forget to click Done when you have selected. Kemudian pada acara hari ini juga difasilitasi dengan juru bahasa isyarat yang tersedia pada layar broadcasting. Sign language interpreters will be available on the broadcasting screen. Dan sebagai disclaimer Bapak Ibu, guna memastikan kelancaran pertemuan hari ini, host atau co-host berhak melakukan mute audio atau stop video para panelis yang tidak sedang bicara saat mereka tanpa disengaja menyebabkan gangguan terhadap acara. Ini dilakukan untuk menjamin suara pembicara dan juru bahasa tetap jelas. Dan di seluruh sesi webinar ini akan direkam. Dengan mengikuti sesi webinar ini, Anda mengetahui dan menyetujui foto dan komentar akan direkam dan dapat disiarkan ulang. Ladies and gentlemen, please note that to ensure the smooth running of today's webinar, the host or co-host reserve the right to force mute the audio or turn off the videos of panelists who are not speaking that may be unintentionally causing disruptions to the webinar. This is to ensure that the audio of the speaker and interpreter remains clear at all times. The whole webinar session will be recorded. By participating in this webinar session, You acknowledge and agree that photos and comments will be recorded and may be rebroadcasted. We thank you for your cooperation in this matter. Terima kasih atas kerjasama Bapak dan Ibu sekalian. Have a productive webinar.
Hello and good afternoon, everyone, distinguished speakers, delegates, and all participants who are joining us through YouTube. I'm very glad and happy to be able to lead the discussion today on the fourth global webinar with topic Youth Empowerment for Stronger Post-Pandemic Recovery. So today we are joined by a very amazing lineup of speakers. But before I introduce them and passing on the floor to our opening speaker, I just want to touch base a bit about what we're going to really worsen the youth employment rate around the world. It's due to lots of limitation that arise because of the pandemic, such as limited job opportunities and also the delay in educational growth. So given the aforementioned problems, the questions that one should ask today is what can the education do to help this youth cope with the rapid evolution of the job market? And then how can the government and partners ensure equitable and also inclusive employment for youths, including digital workers? And of course, last but not least, can the current regulations adapt to future working conditions? So all of this question will be explored and discussed today with our panelists. Joining me today, we have first and foremost, Mr. Aryanto Nugroho, the co-chair from C20 Indonesia. Hello, Mr. Aryanto. And we also have, Andhyta F. Utami, the youth representative and environmental economist and CEO of Think Policy. Maybe Mbak can also wave. And we also have Mr. Tauvik Muhammad, Mr. Budi Sugandi, Mr. Upaider, and also Dr. Muhammad Ali. all of them has a very amazing and impressive background. And I will definitely introduce them in much more details later. But before we continue, I will pass on the floor first to Mr. Aryanto Nugroho, the co-chair of C20 Indonesia. Mr. Aryanto, for the opening remarks, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good morning, good afternoon, and good night. Salam sejahtera bagi kita semua. Om Swastiastu, Namo Buddhaya, salam kebajikan. Excellency Ibu Andhyta F. Utami, Youth Representative, Environmental Economist, and CEO Think Policy. Excellency Bapak Tauvik Muhammad, Technical Officer for Skill Development, International Labor Organizations, Country Officer for Indonesia. Excellency Bapak Budi Sugandi, Co-Chair U20 Engagement Group and Director of Talent Acquisition, University NU Yogyakarta. Excellency Ibu Adi Sutanti, Senior Program Manager British Council. Excellency Mr. Obaidur Rahman, Youth Empowerment Advisor, Save the Children Asia Regional Office. Excellency Dr. Muhammad Ali Al-Awi, Business Innovation Expert from Zayed University. Khalifa bin Zayed Al Nahyan Foundation Representative, Uni of Arab Emirates. Excellency Ibu Abigail Saveria, non-profit consultant and founder of Girls Can Lead. Excellency, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to thanks to the C20 of Education, Digitalization, and Civic Space Working Group, as well as all global member organization for hosting this event. Also thanks to Y20 for the warm collaboration with C20. As one of the official engagement group of the G20, C20 provides a platform for civil society organizations worldwide to bring forth the political dialogue with the leaders in G20 countries. C20 Indonesia has established 7 working groups and organized meaningful exchange and cross-country collaboration to come up with C20 policy recommendation for the G20 government. The 7 C20 working group are as follows: Vaccine Access and Global Health Working Group, Environment, Climate Justice, and Energy Transition Working Group, Development, SDGs and Humanitarian Working Group, Education, Digitalization and Civic Space Working Group, Gender Equality and Disability Working Group, Anti-Corruption Working Group, Taxation and Sustainable Finance Working Group. One of the C20 working group is the Education, Digitalization, and Civic Space Working Group, which already has 126 members from 38 countries and aims to ensure the inclusion of civil society voice in the G20 agendas. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a series of global webinars related to the priority agendas set by C20 Indonesia aims to diversify our perspective and take into account those various voices. We already had our first global webinar with access to universal, inclusive, and safe quality education as the theme. Second webinar with the theme of transformative digital technologies for equitable education. And third webinar, the theme of gender, disability, and social inclusion in education, digitalization, and civic space. Today, we are having the 4th global webinar on youth empowerment for a stronger post-pandemic recovery. The COVID-19 pandemic has accelerated the transformation of the world of work. While a lot of jobs are becoming obsolete, many new jobs are being created. Thus, hundreds of millions of workers are expected to change occupation in the near future. And the education sector should be able to accommodate the ever-changing skills requirement. It is estimated worldwide are already affected by skills mismatches. The skills needed to succeed in the future of work and to live fulfilling lives are quickly evolving, and young people are affected the most. Based on UN projections, the amount of unemployed young people is predicted to increase by 7% in 2030. And in the 2025, it is predicted that 15% of the young workforce will be unemployed. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, our objective are to understand the challenges and opportunities in these issues by gathering insight and perspective from the relevant experts, sharing best practices from the different contexts, methods, countries, and elaborating on option of solution that will be a part of recommendation and ask the C20 Indonesian policy paper. Various insight and feedback during this webinar will sharpen our recommendation on how to overcome challenges faced by youth in adapting to the future of work post-pandemic. Several challenges will be found by the millennial generations, such as healthy life, green job and green economic, digital economic, inclusiveness, climate change, and other big challenges in the near future. It is important to ensure that there is no one life behind. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I want to emphasize, along with the momentum of the G20 that took place a few days ago, we need to reflect again on the result of the G20, which are relevant with the C20 priority issue, particularly with this working group. Also, we have to ensure on behalf of C20 Indonesia's presidency, we are not only for the people in G20 countries, but also people in the emerging development countries, North and South countries, for all the people in the world. Therefore, let's make this webinar an opportunity for us to make concrete deliverable and work beyond the principles. I am confident that if we work together, the voices from civil society organizations across the world will be heard and considered for a recovery stronger in the post-COVID pandemic era. Before I finish the remarks, I would like to invite all of this audience to join on the C20 Indonesia Policy Dialogue that will be held on July 27-28, which will bring together the civil society group and the G20 working group to present the agenda and policy recommendations by both parties in the process leading to the G20 summit. Again, congratulations to the Education, Digitalization, and Civic Space Working Group. Also collaborate with the Y20 as an important part of the G20 for the host these events. I thank very much. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Thank you so much, Pak Aryanto. And before we move forward, can I kindly ask for all of our speakers and also Pak Aryanto to open their camera so we can take a quick photo. Tech team, if you can kindly count and lead us with the photo session. Thank you. And yeah, all of the participants, if you want to join the photo session as well, I think we can take another 5 seconds for you to open your camera. Otherwise, yeah, we can start now.
Okay, so we are taking picture in 1, 2, 3. Once again, 1, 2, 3. This is the last one. 1, 2, 3. Okay, thank you. Back to moderator.
Okay, thank you so much. All right, without further ado, now we will move forward to our keynote speaker. So this amazing lady over here is someone that personally I admire as well. So Miss Afu, or Mrs. Andhyta F. Utami, is the co-founder of Think Policy, which is a platform for young professionals to learn, speak up, and collaborate towards evidence and empathy-based policymaking in Indonesia. As an environmental economist, Afu has conducted various research and analysis to make the economic case for climate justice in Indonesia, focusing on green economy opportunities and low carbon development transition. Afu has a master's degree from Harvard University in public policy and also a bachelor degree in international relations from the University of Indonesia. She will also soon publish her first book, Menjadi, which I'm personally waiting for as well, Afu. And it will talk about the importance of how to develop self-awareness, critical thinking, and empathy through scientific framework. So without further ado, I will pass on the floor to Andhyta F.
Thank you so much, Abigail, Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen. A very good day to all of you. Let me just start by saying that it's such a pleasure and honor to be here. As introduced, my name is Andhyta Utami. I wear many hats, but in particular, today I will speak based on my experience leading Think Policy, which is an education platform that helps young people to become critical thinkers, better empathizers, and better problem solvers so that they can be more effective professionals in affecting change. In the past 2 years alone, we have conducted over 150 classes with our alumni now working across 200 agencies, both in the government sector at the national and subnational level, in the private sector, as well as civil society organizations. We've also produced more than a dozen learning videos with over 50,000 views. And based on this experience and our interactions with our students, one thing is clear. Young people want to work, and they want to make sure to make their work count. Whether as a farmer, as a scientist, a venture capitalist, a researcher, a teacher, an online object driver, each of us wants to feel useful. We want to feel like we're contributing to the society, or at least making someone's day through our work. Indeed, this drive is so salient in my generation and perhaps the generation after me, as the 21st century really imposes unprecedented challenges. As we are recovering from a 2-year-long pandemic, the impacts of climate crisis are already at our door, leaking through. Democracies around the world are shaken up by extremist views. All the while, we're grappling with the intended and unintended consequences of rapid digitalization. Now, all of this, we have been talking about how it requires fundamental shifts in the education system. First, we have been talking about how the content of education needs to change, how we move away from subject matter expertise only to a more skill-oriented education system, how we can better incorporate new type of skills in the environmental space, digital space, social, political literacies, empathy, and critical thinking. We have also been talking in terms of how we need to change where we deliver education, going beyond formal education into vocational trainings. How do we open up rooms for second chances of learning for adult professionals and lifelong learning throughout someone's life? All of these sophisticated conversations, while also might miss our focus on a much bigger issue, which is that many young people are still excluded from the labor market. The data in 2018 shows that 1 in 5 young people are not in employment, not in education or training. And I'm sure that after the pandemic, this number might actually worsen. So the question is now, how do we look at this issue in a more systematic way? Now, more often than not, we tend to put young people into one black box. We think of millennials and like young people as this urban people with very high education, access to high education, and so on. When in reality, I want to draw your attention and focus on like 4 marginalized young groups. One are young people who are still living under poverty. Second are the female young people. Third are the geographically excluded young people, particularly in the context of Indonesia, those living in Eastern Indonesia. And finally, the young people with disabilities. I think there are more young and marginalized groups out there, but I'd like to focus on this 4. I think First, there are still many young people living under poverty, and actually some of them might end up, when we think about young people, some of them might end up being migrant workers, working as tenaga kerja Indonesia elsewhere. When we disaggregate the number of young people not in employment, education, or training by gender, then the number quickly shifts. Only looking at female young people, the number of female young people not in education, employment, or training raises up to 41%. The number is 13% for men. So this remains a big issue. Young people are also young mothers, and different access and discrimination at the workplace might actually change the access or equal opportunity for young females. Next are the young people in geographically excluded areas. How should we be thinking about evening out opportunities of job and good quality education for our friends in the eastern part of Indonesia, for example, or even in the western and central part, but further away from the urban centers? How do we make sure that all these opportunities that we're enjoying today can be accessed by everyone? And finally, the disabled community young people, which disabled communities in Indonesia actually make up 14% of the population, or at least 30 million people. These are 30 million labor that can contribute to the market, can contribute to solving many problems especially in Indonesia, but also globally. So now, how should we be thinking about creating a more inclusive labor market? How do we include all of this like marginalized groups of young people so that they can feel empowered and they can contribute in the labor market? One framework that I really like using actually was proposed by the IMF in 2021. It comprises 4 areas. So one is about access, meaning that how do we make sure that opportunities are equal for everyone? Even though there will still remain competition in the labor market, but ensuring that at least the access for those opportunities are equal, the access to again good quality education, good quality jobs, not just jobs, but actually decent jobs should be there for everyone. The second criterion is fairness. So I think it's time to actually start thinking about, for example, affirmative action policy, or even thinking about how we can better distribute opportunities for those who are marginalized in the labor market. Thirdly is around protection. So a lot of young people today work in the digital technology sector, work in the creative economy sector, which often has somewhat more flexible working hours. So how do we make sure that also not to mention that with all this gig economy job opportunities, there are various issues related to protection of labor, minimum wage protection, fair working hours, and others. I know that some countries are better in providing the legal protection through legislation, but some others are still struggling and need to catch up with how they better protect these young workers. And finally, just as importantly, is voice. So it's not enough that we're just providing better access, more fair access, as well as protection to the young people in the labor market, but how do we also incorporate their voices in how labor policies are being created in the negotiation process as they're applying to new jobs? More often than not, we see that because of unequal, because of the asymmetric power in the negotiation process, for example, or in the political process, a lot of aspirations of the young people are not better incorporated in legislative process or political process in general. I think, for example, in today's panel and many of specific groups discussion on this topic, I think we need more young people being on the panel, sharing their perspective and their ideas, and not just having experts. I think like expertise are important, but how do we really ensure that we incorporate these marginalized voices of young people and marginalized youth in particular? So I will close with the following. I'm an environmental economist by training, and in the environmental economics work, we have been talking a lot about green jobs. How do we, as the world is grappling through climate change, as we're transitioning towards low carbon economy and so on, how do we create more green jobs? And in defining green jobs, we're not just thinking about how jobs should contribute positively to the outcome in terms of lowering, mitigating the risk of climate change, or how jobs should improve the process of production to be more efficient or more green. But the third element, which is so important, is that the green jobs should be decent. So it's not enough that young people's jobs are contributing positively to society. It's contributing to making processes more efficient and more fair. But it also has to be decent. There has to be sufficient protection in terms of wage, in terms of normal working hours, and so on. And I think this is very critical to make sure that not only marginalized groups have better access or are included in the labor market, but also once they do, they actually have decent and fair jobs. I will stop here. I hope that this short remarks will provide food for thoughts for the discussion of the panelists that will come after this. Also, I hope that this can also provide better recommendation on how G20 leaders can do better in this space. I will return the screen to the moderator. Thank you so much for having me here.
Thank you so much, Andhyta F. Utami. It is such an insightful and also thorough opening speech. And with this, we will move forward to the main panel discussion. So in the next hour or so, we will listen from these various speakers about youth empowerment post-COVID. So first, I would like to invite Mr. Tauvik Muhammad. So Mr. Tauvik Muhammad will be talking about strategies and also best practices and possibilities to strengthen partnership in developing vocational education and training between government, academic, industry or business, and also both in national level and also across the countries on a global level. So Mr. Tauvik has worked for almost 20 years at the international labor organizations in Jakarta, Bangkok, and Dhaka, and also as the workers' education expert in Bangladesh. He is currently the technical officer and project manager at the ILO Country Office for Indonesia under the Industry Skills for Inclusive Growth Phase 2. So this project in particular supports improving skills to meet industry demand, promoting digital skills and distance learning, and also linking skills development and other labor market policies. Prior to joining ILO, Mr. Tauvik worked with HSBC, BNP Paribas, and also ASOS in Jakarta. He has a degree in economics from the University of Indonesia and also a master's degree in public administration from Lee Kuan Yew School in Public Policy, University of Singapore. He's also a pro bono lecturer at the Madinah Graduate School of Diplomacy from 2010 up until 2013. So yes, without further ado, Mr. Tauvik, the floor is yours.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for generous introduction, Abigail. And I think listening from Aditya Utami as well as Aryanto, I think I'm not really sure that my presentation is needed. But yes, I've been asked for sharing the strategy and good practices related to how to strengthen the partnerships and developing the vocational education and training, particularly for the youth, and involving the government, academic, industry, and business in and across the countries. So my presentation will focus on what I have done so far related with the project dealing with the skill development in Indonesia in the past 3 years. Okay, if I trying to Utami already mentioned about the need for access, fairness, as well as the protections, including also how to articulate the voice of the youth, which is this is the reason why we also dealing with the need for the youth to have an access for the decent work, including also the sustainable work. Let me begin with the kind of the statistic related with the youth and employment in general, but also particularly for the youth. If you look at the employment to population ratio pre and the post-COVID-19 pandemic, it seems that the achievement on the employment to population ratio has not been recovered yet up to the achievement that have been made in 2019 pre the COVID-19 pandemic. And then some of the impact massively and adversely to the young people with the gender dimension. We can look at the unemployment rate also is higher than before the COVID-19 pandemic. And this is contributed to the inactivity rate. So mostly the unemployment rate is contributed to inactivity rate, particularly for the women, comparing with the male counterpart. And if you look at the youth in particular, the young people between 15 to 24, that the UN defined about the youth, or the ILO defined on the youth, is the youth is the hardest hit by the pandemic, which is minus 9.1%. Comparing with the adult, is only 2.6% negatively after the COVID-19 pandemic. And if we look at more closely look at the sectoral base, some sector was also impact negatively, adversely with the COVID-19, particularly in dealing with the customer, the peoples, like the tourism, accommodation, and food services. But of course, the other sector like the ICT, information communication and telecommunication was booming because of the COVID-19. And if you look at the previous speaker mentioned about the issues about the vulnerability, as well as the exclusion of the young people. So the COVID-19 pandemic is look like impact negatively, particularly for those who have low skill as well as the medium skill. So this is basically is underlined the important thing for making sure that the people, particularly the youth, to have an access for the skill development through the education, trainings, including also vocational trainings and education. And the previous also speaker mentions about the future of work is basically is the safe and driven by the globalization, digitalization, and climate change, and also demographic shift. Is creating the lost job loss, but in the same time also creating the new job. And then say for example the digitalization with the digital platform based working environment is creating the job, but it's not necessarily creating the good environment for the working condition. And then the COVID-19 is basically is also caused the great turmoil for our life. And then if you look at the young people, the young people is the hardest hit from the COVID-19 pandemic. Even in the best time before the COVID-19 pandemic, they have most likely is 3 times to be unemployed comparing with the adult. And this is actually creating or exacerbate the existing inequality among the countries, particularly in the middle income country like Indonesia and others, African and Southeast Asian countries. And the COVID-19 particularly affected the labor market, hurting young people more than other groups. And then the youth employment fell 8.7 in 2020. And the most dangerous one is the young people because the COVID-19 is increasing the people who not in employment, education, and training. So in recent in the other most developing countries. So that's why this is actually impact negatively to the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goal, particularly target 8.6 to reduce the number of the young employments in education, trainings, and employment. So I just echoing what Utami mentioned earlier, that there is a need for affirmative action for the youth, because the recovery for the youth employment has been started quickly in several countries. But some number of the countries' situation suggested that there is deteriorating again in number of the countries. And then it's very important that any policies, any intervention have to be emphasized on the recovery strategy, but also take into account the youth employment as the key objective. And then I would like to conclude that the youth employment, because of the COVID pandemic, is disruption to the education, training, and work-based learning, increased difficulty for the young job seeker and also new entrant for the labor market, including also job and income losses. So that's why some proposed strategies is first is we need to have the integrated the policy, combining the income support, stimulating new employment and the entrepreneurship, including also the actions, the focusing on the most vulnerable young people, the affirmative action. We need also to identifying the employment growth for among the young people, particularly for women. So those the sector who actually generated to the GDP and can be absorbed the young people in the labor market. In addition to retaining the young people in the education, training for the vocational training, as well as the support the young people to have withdrawn in the labor market. So it's more like the skilling, as well as the public employment services through the active labor market policy. So it's important to also extending the social protection for the young people, tailoring the policy program toward the safeguarding the young workers' right. So that's why it's important that they actually include in any collective bargaining in the different levels, as well as articulating the young voices by including them or recognize their voices. In some of the previous experience in a number of the countries, they have the young network or young representative to voice their concerns and rights. It's important to have them in this kind of the social dialogue, because they have their own concerns, particularly related with the mental being, the youth right, and how they can actually engage in any policy making process. And then the digitalization is change the nature and mode of piece of work. That's why it's very important to have the skilling and reskilling. But this is not only important for the also call it the technical skill, but also the soft skill as well as the employability skill. So that's why it's very important that we focus on the young people to make sure that they have access to the decent job, lifelong learning in more sustainable way. I think some of the good practice that I can come up with the previous experience. I think the affirmative actions for the youth is very important. We have to follow with the coherent and the integrated policy. The integrated approach related with the from the study, consultations, the capacity building, as well as the specific need for the young people, combining the technicals and digital and soft skill and entrepreneurial skill when the job creation is difficult to maintain in the particular countries is also important. The sectoral approach involving the industry, the government, trade union, and youth representative itself is very crucial to make sure that their voice is articulated and also included in any policy and intervention. The computer literacy and to create the distance learning. I think distance learning not only can address the issues on the geographical coverage for some country like maybe Indonesia, but also it's important that because after the COVID-19 pandemic, this distant learning is accelerated the process for opening up access for the people, for the quality skill, including also the participation of the women or girls in the to access the quality education and training. And then last but not the least is important to social inclusion. So there is a focus on the digital transition strategies, supporting from school training to the job market. So this includes also apprenticeships, quality apprenticeship on the job training, including also some of the government's support through the fiscal policy that Indonesia has also introduced that can be replicated with other countries as well. So that's all I think. Thank you so much. So I'll give the floor to Abigail. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Tauvik. Thank you for sharing your thoughts on this topic, and we'll hear more later, perhaps from you during the Q&A sessions. Before we move forward onto the next speaker, I would like to remind you, for those who's joining via Zoom especially, that you can start drop down your questions as well on the Q&A box that appear below of your screen. And we will have later at the end of every panelist's presentation around 5 until 10 minutes Q&A session, and we are more than happy, and I believe all the speakers also, to hear from you and also answer some of your burning questions. All right, up next, we will have Mr. Budi Sugandi, the co-chair of U20 Engagement Group. He's also the Director of Talent Acquisition from UNU Yogyakarta. And Mr. Budi will talk about the 21st century and post-COVID skills the youth need. So a brief background about Mr. Budi. Mr. Budi Sugandi, or widely known as Gandhi, is a CEO of Click Coaching, co-chair of Y20, and also his work focusing in giving motivation to build the startup because he wants more Indonesian students to be able to get scholarship to study abroad and have global experience, especially students from lower middle income economics family. And Mr. Gandhi is also the General Chairman of China Sharia Economic Communities, or MES Tiongkok, and the Deputy Rais Syria of the PCINU Tiongkok. He is the awardee of Australia Award Scholarship for Scale Up Business Program back in 2016. And he is also awarded the Excellence International Student from SWU China back in 2019 and 2020. He's currently a PhD candidate majoring in Education Leadership and Management at Southwest University of China. All right, without further ado, I will pass on the floor to Gandhi.
Okay, thank you so much, Mbak Abigail Saveria. The introduction is very long, but I think, yeah, I just so, but thanks again. And I'm very honored to be here to inviting for the C20 Global Webinar, Education, Digitalization, and Civic Space Working Group. So as the moderator introduced me, I'm Budi Sugandi, Y20 co-chair. There is 5 or 6 actually the co-chair, so I'm one of the co-chair. And also I'm the director at UNU Yogyakarta. So at this moment, I want to share the idea about the term about the youth empowerment. This relates with my position actually, and also let me give the brief about U20 or Y20. As we know, there is around 10 engagement group in the G20, and one of the engagement group is U20. So we already have 4 pre-summits in Palembang, Balikpapan, also in NTB in Lombok, and also this month in Manokwari and West Papua. So we have four four issue actually. First is youth employment. The second is about digital transformation. Third is about the sustainable and livable planet. Then the last one is about the diversity and inclusion. So I want to share my PowerPoint. So, okay. Can you see the PowerPoint? Hello? And let me close the door so it will be.
Yes, the PowerPoint is already up. Mr.
Okay,
Andy.
great. Yeah, thank you so much. Okay. So as I said that we have four priority areas, but the four priority area, there is a sub-priority. For example, for youth employment, what we discussed today, we have like two sections. First is social safety nets for informal and non-standard form of employment. The second is about youth social entrepreneurship, and also for digital transformation, sustainable, and also the diversity and inclusion. We have the sub-priority. And also our sub-priority also there is related with the G20 terms. So this you can see the cross-cutting. We are from Y20 have the research actually. It's conduct in last year, 2021, around August and until September. We collaborate, IYD as the host of the program, have the collaborate with Chin.com. So we have like 5,700 respondents, and this is the results. What we collect from the G20 country, there are around 47% that young people have a job insecurity. The top cause of future employment concern for youth across G20 countries, with 47% of them worrying about working is in unstable jobs. So it's not only in Indonesia, but especially in G20 country, and of course, this also for all the country, like the problem of the world. And the second is we have 73% of youths think that government should provide social safety nets for them. And the top three is about the regulatory supports, education and training, and financial help are among the top three desired type of assistance by aspiring youth social entrepreneurs. And then if we're talking about the social safety nets for informal and non-formal standard form of employment that examines protections for young workers working in lower quality jobs in the informal economy and in arrangement outside of full-time employment, such as a part-time work, temporary work, or 0 hours contract. There is three challenges. First is lack of access to public social protection program, and also financing barriers and limited awareness about society's safety nets. And also there is opportunities. First is about recognizing the involvement of stakeholders, taking advantage of digital technology, tailored income support for youth, and strong government leaderships. And then about the youth social entrepreneurships, what we got is actually this is the explore social business as viable pathway to employment for young people, and also an opportunity for them to address pressing community needs. There is 5 challenges. First is nascent regulatory support and supports competitive funding encouragement, and then human resource challenge, socio-cultural barriers, uneven development and opportunity gaps. And for the opportunities, we have 4. First is taking advantage of internet-based financing alternative embedding social entrepreneurship in educational support program, securing government support and recognition, and interlink key player in the youth social entrepreneurship ecosystem. So this is the beginning of my presentations about the what we have in white paper actually. What I want to explore more, because I have to explain about the youth 21st century skill. Actually, as we know, there are a lot of research actually conduct for this skill. For example, there is a research from World Bank, also from our government in Indonesia, especially for the Minister of Education, for example. But I found from the some reference, there is one interesting thing. It's come from the National Inventors Hall of Fame. It's about the essential 21st century skill for post-pandemic world. They found like fourth, the important skill what we should have as a youth in the post-pandemic era, especially for education. Because I do believe if you talk about the youth, it's not only about the millennials, but also about the Gen Z, of course, with the Gen Y also. So education, I mean, is very important. We need to embed the system, the program to the school. So there is four. What I found is the first is about the critical thinking. This vital for identifying misinformations. We know there are a lot of problem for youths about the misinformation. So the ability to analyze information to make well-reasoned decision is at the foundation of navigating complex situations. Though traditional schooling has long relied on lecture and testing that reward rote memorizations, scenario, and the real world rarely have simple right or wrong solutions. Despite this reality, according to Colin Seal, contributor for Forbes and author of Thinking Like Liars, a framework for teaching critical thinking to all students, he wrote that critical thinking as a learning outcome is largely still considered a luxury goods. In an article for Forbes, Seal argued that this skill is needed now more than ever. And while such skills are compliant by employers who wish to cultivate a workplace filled with independent thinkers, especially during his global pandemic, teaching students how to think critically can also help them protect both themselves and the people they care for. And the second is collaborations. Collaboration is the key to developing effective solutions. Though it admits more difficult to embrace fully in distance and blend learning environment, the ability to collaborate will be an increasingly important skill in a post-COVID world. In the article published by World Economic Forum, Sandy McKenzie, director of Copenhagen International School, and Lutra, founder and chief consultant of Talent ED, argue that because COVID-19 is a global crisis, education must account for the fact that we live in an interconnected world. Additionally, embracing a video application breakout room feature is another way to encourage group work. In this scene, each student can be assigned a certain job like timekeeper, note keeper, etc. This small job helps to create a sense of accountability and respect, setting an expectation that everyone in the class has something valuable to contribute. Number three is adaptability. This is very crucial for overcoming obstacles. One of the most challenging aspects of both teaching and learning is our current environment is that each day brings unpredictability. For students who rely on daily routines to keep them focused on engaged, this new normal has been particularly challenging. In an article published in the Atlantic Mandel explained that this difficulty are exacerbated by the fact that COVID-19 has affected families and each student in different ways. And then the last one, this about the encouraging and innovation mindsets. Though we are already 2 decades into the 21st century, the idea that we must prepare today's students with skills that allow them to thrive in our increasingly complex world has never been more important. As futurist Alvin Toffler predicted back in 1970, the literates of the 21st century will not be choose who cannot read and write, but choose who cannot but choose who cannot learn, unlearn, and relearn. So this is what I want to say for the presentation. So in the beginning, I forget to say thank you to everyone, especially my warm regards, my greeting for all the speakers. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Gandhi. Appreciate your presentation. I think we gained a lot of insights as well. And again, if you have any questions to Mr. Gandhi, please feel free to start dropping by your questions on the Q&A box, because we will have Q&A session later at the end of the presentations of all the speakers. So move forward to the next speaker. We will have Ms. Ari Sutanti. So Ms. Ari Sutanti is the Senior Programs Manager from British Council Indonesia. So she will share about the choices and perspective from the next generation based on the annual survey on youth in G20 countries and next generation study conducted in some of the G20 countries. So a brief background about her. Her current position focuses on inclusive community programs such as social enterprise, active citizens, and digital access program. She has been working on various programs on social development, including climate change education, good governance, sustainable development, community development, and capacity building. Ari graduated from University of East Anglia in Norwich, UK, with British Tiffany Scholarship, with a master's degree in international relation and development studies. So without further ado, I would like to invite Ms. Ari to take on the floor.
Thank you, Abigail, and thank you all speakers that spoke before me. Allow me to share my screen. And yeah, thank you for sharing my screen. And thank you again for the opportunity to be able to speak and present here. I think after we heard from Afu, we heard from Mas Tauvik, and also we heard from Mas Gandhi and also Pak Aryanto. I think we heard quite a very enlightening information about how we should move forward with skilling young people and next generations, and how we can work together to support them after the post-COVID recovery. I mean, okay, I'll start my presentations by sharing this British Council Next Generation Research. So Next Generation Research is basically research about young people that we do in 19 countries, and what I will share today is the research from 8 G20 countries. So Indonesia is finalizing the research, and some country has finished the research, and I think there is a common findings that we can share, and I think that will enrich our discussions and also our policy recommendations for the G20. Can we go to the next slide, please? So this is a bit of context that was already mentioned before, that we are facing post-pandemic, we are facing a problem after the pandemic, and we need to do something on youth empowerment for stronger post-pandemic recovery. And one of it is working on skilling young people so that they can catch up with the jobs that are available, or else skilling them so that they are able to create jobs for themselves and also for the community. Next slide, please. So this is the study, some study that we do in G8 countries. I also put Myanmar and Vietnam just for our informations, but it's not going to be referred here. So the study in the 8 G8 country, Germany, Ireland, Italy, Poland, South Africa, Turkey, UK, and Indonesia. Indonesia is ongoing and will be finalized in end of August. It's both qualitative and quantitative, and for the quantitative survey, we have 3,000 survey respondents in Indonesia, and from all these 8 G20 countries, the total respondent is around 15,000. So I think it's quite representative as a survey, and over 21,000 youth participated in this G20 and ASEAN Next Generations research. So we can actually hear the voice of young people. And we can see here that the age bracket is between 18 to 30. For Indonesia, we use 16 to 35 according to the government criteria. Next. So what does the young people say? So we want to try to capture this in our next generation research, which basically portraying the youth or young people attitudes and aspirations. We want to know and understand the young people attitudes and aspirations. We want to amplify their voice, and we want to support better youth policy making. That is the reason why we are doing this next generation research in number of countries. So we are looking at the education, employment, lifestyles, their hopes, and also their fears for their country, and also the degree of international engagement and opinion on the wider world, and the value and belief that affect young people's life. So as in other research, we do literature review, we do representative survey, in this case a nationally representative survey, gender, urban, rural, geography. We also do interview and focus group discussions. Then we also make policy recommendations, and we want to also share their voice in various platform, like this platform, like the platform that the government is having, and trying to also share the results of the study with young people and the youth groups and those working in the policy space. And what is a bit different from other study possibly is that in our next generation research, we also established what we call as a youth task force. It is an advisory group of in-country young people, youth organizations, government officials, and other key youth stakeholders that can support us in the design and the use of the research. So we aim to make this research as inclusive as possible. So it's not the young people only as beneficiaries, but they also have a say in the process. And also we do skills development for young people in research skills. So in Indonesia, we train young people to be also to be able to participate in the research as researchers. Next slide, please. So we do the research we want to amplify youth voice from a range of backgrounds, and this is one way of us amplifying the voice, the youth voice. And I think this is also one way of discussing the policy making process, because we want to support a better youth policy making, evidence-based policy making by sharing our research results, and also we want to include those from underprivileged background to be heard and reflected in the policy within the policy process. Next. So what are the key findings? I think some of these are actually aligned or similar with the research that is being done in non-G20 country, but this is the finding for the 8 countries that we mentioned earlier. So young people have aspirations and drive to succeed in educations. They want to start their own business, and they are eager to achieve the lifestyle that they want. However, there are some key area of primary importance to young people related to education, skills, and inclusion. So as for the educations, we are talking about the quality of educations here. Indeed, there is a need to modernize the curriculum. We heard this from Afu in her keynote speech, and I think this is pretty much similar. The result of our research, I think, confirms also that research that being quoted by Afu. So there is a need to modernize the curriculum system, teaching styles, and approaches to ensure education and training are fit for purpose. The second area that is also very important is the fact that there is a skills gap. So the knowledge and skills that young people have when they leave schools or university or training actually do not always equip them for the working life in the 21st century. I was thinking that this possibly the case for developing country, but then we are also doing the study in developed country, and the result is quite consistent. In terms of accessibility, inclusions, equality, and discriminations, we found out that young people can experience exclusions. We found out that the exclusions come from education, training systems, and opportunity due to variety of factors, including identity, social economic status, gender, disability, and location. Youth experience discriminations in many aspects of their lives, and this can restrict their life chances and opportunity to engage. So all these key findings from the next generation reports is summarized into a report that is called What We Know briefs, and this is some of the excerpt that we share in these presentations. Next. Okay, we go into a more detail about like the skills gap. What are the skills gap? So there is insufficient links between educations, the labor market, and adult life. So if we can see here that young people across next generation's country that we research, even if they demonstrate high level of satisfactions with their education system, they want to be trained the 21st century skills and taught the skills to start their own business. So there is a lot of aspirations to be entrepreneurs for young people in these 8 countries. But there is this supply and demand mismatch across all these 8 countries. Young people note that a mismatch between what education is offering in terms of skills and development and skills needed in work and employment is not matched. This includes soft skills and also labor skills. Also, the young people across the countries in the next generation study note that the system is too stuck in its way to accommodate changing demand for different skills and ability among youth. The focus on formal education as a distinct form and skill set. So I think this is Sorry for the typo here. So many young people feel that even when education offers them a lot in terms of knowledge, skill, and attitude, it does not connect well to the other realm outside education. So I think this is a challenge, a challenging situation for education world, but also for us who are working to support education skills and also working with young people. There is also soft skills gap. Schools focus too much on hard and formal skills such as literacy and numeracy without due considerations of soft skills, labor skills gap, and employment gap. Next slide, please. So further on this, if you want to have a look closely at Indonesia, we can see that in our preliminary findings that the impact of COVID-19 is mostly seen in reduced opportunity for young people, reduced social contact with friends and family. This is also like there is a lack of education and schooling as a result of lockdown. Now school is opening gradually. Hopefully some of this problem is being addressed. When thinking about issues that young people would like to see improve in the future, one of the area is more about employment opportunities. So young people recognizing the value of their educations, but there is more to do to better prepare them for work and life in general. So this result, we will be sharing this also with the Ministry of Education and also the Education Working Group, so that this can be also a feedback to the policy making process. In Indonesia, 51% of young people that we surveyed in 34 provinces, 51% of young people feel education is valuable for them in preparing them for working life, with 39% saying that education has helped them to gain employment. This is quite a good, an okay result. 40% of young people say that education has prepared them for well for life in general. However, it's almost half of them is saying otherwise. So the other thing from Indonesia finding is that there is a strong sense of entrepreneurialism among young people. 57% of respondents aspire to set up their own business. However, there are structural barriers to realizing these ambitions, with smaller number feeling that setting up a business is an achievable goal. So 35% feel that their education has taught them the skills required to become an entrepreneur. Next slide, please. Okay, this is one, a number of problem that we heard from the ground. There is the problem about rigid curricula, outdated teaching methods, the lack of appropriate resources and support for teachers. Next. Also, there is issue about accessibility, equality, inclusions, and discrimination. So there is financial barriers, limited youth voice and youth participations in education system, marginalizations, exclusions, and discriminations of minority groups and disabled youth in education, employment, and other area. Also gender bias, gender-based discriminations and gender norms affects girls and young women's ability to pursue education and employment. Next. So what we have as a recommendation is that one is the first is to increase youth voice in education, allowing young people to have more voice in the classroom, to collaborative and participatory method, as well as in reform and contributions to policy, provide more and better resources for teaching, reforming curricula to be more skills oriented, and providing soft skills related to the job market and other areas of life, approach education as a holistic policy, enhance accessibility for marginalized group such as disabled and special educational needs youth, including through online methods, strengthen gender equality, and provide safe space at all levels of education to support gender equality, and bring inclusion and diversity into public life. For example, through media and broadcasting education materials and practice, and the world of work through diversity training for managers, for example. Next. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it from us. And hopefully it's something that we can discuss further and address further as a community and also as a group of organizations and people working in the space of education. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Harry. And right now, we will move forward to our next speaker, which is Mr. Obaidur Rahman. So Mr. Obaidur will talk about the design and best practices for skills to succeed for youth and youth with disabilities. So Mr. Muhammad Obaidur Rahman is a youth employment advisor for the Save the Children in Asia and Pacific region. As a development practitioner with more than 20 years of experience from INGOs and the UN, Mr. Obaidur has been working on various programs on children, adolescents, and youth rights issues in Asia, Africa, and Middle East region. This experience includes setting strategic directions, demonstrating positions, improving quality standard, networking, as well as multi-stakeholders partnership. Mr. Obaidur has a Master of Development Studies and a Master of Social Science in International Relations from the University of Dhaka. So I guess without further ado, I will pass on the floor to Mr. Obaidur.
Thank you very much, Abigail. This is really fantastic opportunity to share our thoughts. And I really believe that this is not the first and last pandemic that we have been experiencing. This sort of things will come again and again. But the solution is that how we are investing for generating resilient, smart generation who can foresee the opportunities, navigate the complexity, and engage in a strategic way that they can see the possibilities of the opportunity in any kind of crisis. So this sort of a smart generation is really the solution of this kind of pandemic. And definitely we need to think of that. I totally agree what had been said to all these speakers. And this is really important that how to support building and empowering the generation that they are resilient in adapting any kind of crisis. So I'd like to share with you one of the flagship programs of Save the Children. It's called Life is Skill for Success. And some thoughts would be interesting to discuss that it's also called transferable life skills. And what are the transferable life skills? We have 5 domains. In each of the domain, what are the transferable life skills and why it's called transferable life skill? 6 key programmatic activities, some quality benchmarking, some evidences, and also some internal learning. So these are the things I'm going to talk to you, and definitely if any questions, I'd like to answer that and we'll try to build the answer together. So this is very interesting what the other speaker have said clearly, that this is really the time for thinking the transferable skills that actually give the skills, competencies, behavior, attitudes, and personal qualities that the youth can navigate the environment, work well with the others, perform well, and achieve their goals in a sustainable manner. So it's about transition from school to jobs, that how they can be equipped with the skills required to enter into the workforce in a successful manner. And this is very important that these are also transferable and transformational. Both the important part of the skills are important. When we say that transferable, you can see there are 5 domains. This starts with the positive self-concept, self-control, social skills, communications, and higher order of thinking skills. in different ages of a young people, they have different types of engagement with the families, with communities, with the other stakeholder, and as well as also the employers. So if the skills are not transferable and transformational, then the communication, the way they do communicate at the family life, they need to know how to transfer and transform in their social life and their political life and also their workplace life. So this is really important that while the 5 domain, it has been talked a lot through the whole presentations that we need to have the soft skill, we need to have the life skill, but in this presentation, we'll try to explore what the transferable skills should constitute of. So these are the 5 domains we have been trying to build on. And if we look at a little bit about what are the different things we are trying to build on each of the domain, like a positive self-concept starts with the self-awareness, confidence, accept and understanding, strength and potentials. And when it comes to the self-control, it's about a delayed gratification, manage impulses and emotion, and time manages stress management. Social skills also about demonstrate context appropriate behavior, conflict resolutions. Then when it's coming to communication, it's about verbal, non-verbal negotiating, and also active listening. And when it's a higher order of thinking skill, it's about problem solving, critical thinking, decision making. One of the fundamental point here is that all the 5 domains are so important. If we only focus on the higher order of thinking skills, then it's not really meaningful. And then the resilient generation will not come, that the smart and resilient people, young people who can, we have been trying to build on in a very system that the young people who have a better transferable life skill have been coped with this situation so strategically, so meaningfully than the others who didn't have the transferable life skill. So this is important that we need to consider that how to promote the transferable life skill in a sustainable manner. So it's a really a systematic approach that we need to undertake. It starts with inception. Inception starts with the formative research and design. It starts with what is the supply and demand of the transferable life skills in a specific country, a specific sector. Then it's important whether in each of the stages of the inception and proposal designing. Then when it's come to the implementation, delivery and participatory and experiential learning and real life practices, this is really important to mention. That is transferable life skill is not only a matter of training, it's a matter of practicing. It's a matter of putting the youth in the right places where they can do the real life practices, and definitely how to engage with the key stakeholder community. We have also set a clear transferable life skill quality benchmark with really TLS is called transferable life skill assessment. This is so important. Without having the benchmark, it's really difficult to monitor where we are, where we'd like to go, and how we'd like to do. In terms of when we do the quality benchmarking, it's about 5 important areas. A supportive learning environment, we have a very clear set of benchmarking. What do we mean by supportive learning environment? Participatory and experiential learning, what does exactly it means, what are need to have. More cross-cutting like gender inclusion, disability participation, so, and also targeting. And then we do the transferable life skill measurement. So it's really important, a systematic approach at what I said, not really looking on like piecemeal by piecemeal basis, like if it is one domain, one content, it's not so meaningful. So this is really important, how to make an integrated transferable life skill approaches for youth in the 21st centuries. So what I said also, it's about adolescence skill for successful transitions. It's about capability, opportunities, and learning environment, market driven. often we when talk about the market driven, we often talk about the hard skill, but market driven transferable life skill also equally important. Adolescent youth friendliness, gender sensitive and inclusion, where the disability comes very strongly. Facilitators, guide and resources. Often we forget that who is going to roll out the training content. These are the facilitators, and how much equipped they are to roll out the facilitations. Programmatic appropriate structure and safeguarding is so important, not only looking the protection issue outside, but also internal organizational mechanism. Both are equally important. So these experiences have been drawn, the whole framework, transferable life skill has been developed with intensive research with as in the Middle East and also Asia, East Africa, West Africa region. And we have very clear evidences which shows that it has a monetary value, it has a social impact, it has a political impact, and also very cost effectiveness. That means in terms of productivity, in terms of efficiency, in terms of their career growth and development, transferable life skill play a very role. Also like skill to succeed program, where we have already digitalized the skill life skill curriculum. It's called EA tool employment assessment. Due to the TLS transferable life skill, the youth have a better quality of employability, better quality of social engagement, better quality of active citizenship development. So it means also about the power of catching up with a different situation, navigating. And also in Indonesia, we have a very interesting experience from New Horizons, where we have seen that the impact of transferable skills is 5.5 times higher than the other group of population. So youth in action, we have a solid evidences which shows that the impact of transferable life skill in terms of income, in terms of family financial literacy, and a lot of other things. So this is really interesting experiences that we have been trying to build on. The framework that we have designed is called Life Skill for Success, and different domain, what I have mentioned, the 5 domain, and all the positive self-concept, self-control, social skills, communications, higher order of thinking skill, all when it functions effectively and integrated manner, then the transferable life skills happen. Thank you very much. It's a very short time, but very important issues, and thanks a lot for inviting me in this discussion. Over to you, Abigail.
Is a lecturer and also an accredited international trainer in many fields. He has extensive experience in writing and reviewing laws and specifications, ISO audit, vocational training for various nationalities, as well as general academic education in government schools and higher academic education. So without further ado, to our last but definitely not least speaker, Dr. Muhammad Ali, the floor is yours.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Good morning, brothers and sisters from Indonesia and from all over the world. Thank you for having me for the for today's presentation. It's my privilege and it's my honor to participate. The UAE experience in empowering the vocational training and put that or apply that in the field of education and link that with the job market. So thank you all. I would like to thank all the speakers before me. It was really a lot of information in the field of employment and unemployment, and link that with the with the education and training is really vital, especially post-COVID time. So thank you all, and I will start presenting the, I will start sharing the presentation from my computer. Is it clear now? Can you see the presentation? I'm not sure. Can you see the presentation?
Yes, we can see that.
Yes, thank you very much. So my presentation will be about the vocational education role in empowering the youth for 21st century skills. So as introduction, 21st century skills include skills and abilities that have been identified as being required for the success in 21st century society and workplaces. Technical and vocational education and training, TVET, must properly prepare their students to live and work in the 21st century. This preparation includes providing students with the important skills needed in 21st century. It is very important to make the 21st century skills an integral part of TVET curriculum to provide competitive graduates and quality TVET programs aiming for higher employability, which is the most challenge. It's the skills that needed from the market and developed in educational sector. So vocational training coming in these schools first to have a better skilled and qualified employees to benefit companies, individuals, and the government and the school. The companies will boost the production and the provision of enhanced services. For employees, they will get more job opportunities. For government and the schools, they will meet the needs of the labor markets, so they have the higher enrollment of students and attract the future direct investment. The most popular qualification framework in vocational is the Germany qualification framework. Where the Germany framework, starting from the model is based on vocational training dual system, which combine practical training at the workplace and the attendance as a part-time in vocational school. The German model can be categorized into two separated key areas: the academic higher education system and the non-academic system of vocational training after completing the school years. The non-academic sector is divided into two pathways. In your, you can see it in your left hand. The either attending a full-time vocational school, so it's all about studying a vocational education or applied science within the school itself, or choosing a dual system where you can attend the classes and get the hands-on experience in a corporate or industry sector. The German dual system for vocational training and development of highly skilled personalities have been recognized as the backbone of the German economy and construction model. Now, some of the best practices of Germany model in Switzerland and Austria, the Netherlands, Denmark and Norway, Luxembourg and England. Now they are not totally or not implementing exactly the Germany model, but they have some enhancement in adding some exams, some practical exams or some paper-based exams, and they link their vocational training to their job market. So there is no like one fit for all. Every country can develop the model as per their job market needs.
Sorry, Dr. Muhannad, your slide is not moving yet.
Now, okay. So I covered the introduction, and then I covered the definition of the vocational training. And this is the Germany model that I have been explained earlier. So starting after completing the school education, the student the student has to choose one pathway from one education path after the school's education. So from the left side, you can choose the full-time vocational schools. So that's attending the classes, the applied science classes in a school and vocational school, or the dual VIT system, where he can attend the classes in a school, applied science in a school, and practice the skills in corporate side or in industry sector. Or he can also he can choose the higher education, the academic education, the baccalaureate. So he moved to academia only. So the three sides move to labor market, but if you can see, the vocational schools is a much faster. The best practices of Germany model is the Switzerland and Austria, the Netherlands, Denmark and Norway, Luxembourg and England. But they have some modification as per their local needs or local job market needs. So they added some examination, some practice examination or paper-based examination. It depends on their needs. Another popular or well-known qualification model is the Swiss ones. The Swiss one is almost similar to Germany one, but the model got two paths, in academic and vocational. And in vocational, they have dual system and the school-based system as similar to Germany. In academic, they have academic also the bachelor degree or upper secondary, so from diploma and above. And what makes that really important, embedding the vocational to the educational pathway increase the economy, increase the economic status of the country and the domestic per capita. Here, the qualification framework of United Arab Emirates, it has been developed 2006 by His Highness President Mohammed bin Zayed. And here you can see the integrated model, where after finishing the high school, if you go 1, 2, 3, and 4, after completing the secondary school, you can choose whether go to the vocational path, the green path, or the upper one, the academia path. So it's integrated together. One of the best example for that in UAE, the partnership of Zayed University and Minerva, where they developed the interdisciplinary programs where you can choose the academic program, business transformation path, or computer or IT system, or social innovation. From these, you can choose your specialization. And what's unique with this system? You are attending in a class 30%, and the other 70% is practical. And all students will, after the admission, they will sign the contract with the business sector, where they can apply all the knowledge of all the courses in that business partner. And after that, they directly employed after graduation. The context of the 21st century skills bring the consequence of the need of vocational education model. So this is like putting the vocational model in the 21st century skills needs, where we develop the policy of the country, we develop the faculty, the teaching providers, or the education providers everywhere, whether from the companies or the universities or schools, and also fulfill the market need, the job market needs. This is already covered by the previous speakers, but this is my last slide, where you can see the top 10 skills that needed in the market and where we need to focus post-pandemic. Thank you very much. That's my final slide. Thank you. And if you have any question, you are most welcome.
Hi, thank you so much, Mr. Muhammad Ali, for your in-depth presentation. We really appreciate it. And that concludes all the presentation from our speaker. And since the time is a bit crunch, so unfortunately, we only have time for one question. So I will read, there's one question here that already come in through the Q&A box. So I think I will give a quick 1 minute for all speakers who are still in attendance to answer this question. So the question is, we would love to hear on speaker suggestion on how to optimize youth employment in terms of pure merit wins instead of some X factors. Or maybe if I can sharpen it a bit, because there is maybe, we understand that there might be some privileges that some people might have. So how is it to optimize those who might not have disadvantage compared to the others? So maybe for the first, we can I'll start with the Mr. Tauvik, and then goes with the next speakers.
Okay, thank you, Abigail. Yes. I already actually responded in writing. So I think it's very important in optimizing the youth employment with what they call it, the merit-based or skill-based hiring mechanism. It will be included from the from the beginning, public employment services using the technology. So the transparency is very key in terms of the process, by identifying the job seeker in addition to job matching, but also for linking to the vocational training center and education, for instance, for the further training. So and then it's very important to have very clear mechanisms, starting with, transparency in providing the job descriptions, requirement process, shortlisted written test, as well as the interview. I think also the indicator for recruitment itself. So I would say that the digital platform could be one of the answer to make sure that the what's the
Thank you so much,
transparency,
Mr.
the transparency, and everyone can access for the information. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you so much for raising that point. All right, and next, I would like to give the floor to Ms. Ari. What do you think about this question? And if there's anything that you want to add or maybe counter based on what Mr. Tauvik has said?
I think I would agree with what Pak Tauvik shared, that it should begin with an open process and transparent. And I think now that we have digital means of doing things, I think it is helpful in the way that we can open the recruitment process. We can do selections. And we can inform the results online, and also what are the terms and conditions, what are the requirements, and what are the benefits that will be received by the employee, and so on and so forth. But I think I want to add something as well on top of the questions, that I think for young people, it is important for us who are supporting the young people and also youth empowerment, that we are supporting them to be able to create the jobs for their own and also for the communities, and by facilitating not only their skills but also giving opportunities or giving investment where possible, so that they can start do something, creating a job instead of only entering the job market, but also creating employment for them and also for their peers. Thank you. Hope this makes sense. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Ari. Up next is Mr. Obaidur. I think you can give more perspective in terms from the point of view of youth with disabilities. I think this is one of the biggest challenges as well that youth with disability has faced. So do you have, can you share any best practices on how to, face this, or also how in particular government and also the job market can adapt with this kind of situation, knowing that we have youth with this kind of disadvantage?
Thank you very much. I would like to point, I totally agree what the other speakers have said. Just to add a few points. One is when the youth enter into the job market, often this has become a by chance, but not by choice. That means that they try into different sectors, and then they get a job. Sometimes what they learned in the university or the colleges, and what they have been doing, there is no linkages of that. So that means how to promote by choice a generation who are passionate about the jobs. Yeah, who have it's very much connected with the natural talent they have. That means some people have good at something naturally. That's very important. When they come to the point that sometimes the different stakeholders think that this is really a charity, but it's very important to understand this is there is a business case of investing young people with disability and employing young people with a disability has a business meaning. That means when employers understand that if I employ young people with disability with the different qualities and capacity, and they are contributing much better than the others, the business case that how it's paying back to employers. And there are so many business cases where young people are with the disabilities, young girls with disabilities are performing much better than the other group of youth. So promoting the business cases is so important, that this is not a charity. There is a business meaning of engaging with young people with disability. So that sort of documentation, piloting is really the key to success.
Thank you so much, Mr. Obaider. And as a closing statement, I will like to pass on the floor to Dr. Muhammad Ali. So I think your expertise as well will add a great point in regards to these questions, especially knowing that I think there is an opportunity as well if we want to shine a light on that through having vocational education, there's like growing opportunities, especially with the digital skills that make everything much more easier and easy to learn. So yeah, what do you think about the questions and how we can have we can shine the light more on vocational studies for youth to adapt with the current job landscape?
Thank you very much, Abigail, for the question, and thank you all for your insights. From my side, the vocational training is the alternative of the academic training or academic education, as you know. What's what we can say the strength of vocational training coming on shortening the time of education. So you have a less time in education and very intensive or specific in one area. So you can go and study in deep in one area of education in short time to get a job. So you are shortening the time or saving the time, and also saving the time of education and the force and the money as well, and getting the job faster in one area. So and that's as an alternative. I'm not speaking about the vocational is better than academic, no, but I mean vocational solving a big problem of the practical jobs, or job that's related to the that relates to the skills, or specific skills. So if you need to develop your skill, you can go to one area of vocational training rather than studying of 4 years of bachelor degree to only being employed in a job. So it's the pace of the vocational is much faster than the academic, but the results is different. So it's all is about the needs of the job market. So if we can have a clear path of the job needs and connected to the admission of the education before the students choose his path or her path in higher education, they know how much candidate we need in this specific area or a specific skill. How many? If this get saturated, then we don't need any more to be enrolled in the same program. And this is what we are applying right now in Zayed University and many leading countries like Switzerland. They already implemented that, and they now they have a very positive impact in their economy. I hope I answered the question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And I guess that's also close the overall of our panelists today. Again, I would like to address a huge thank you for every panelist, speakers, opening speakers, for sharing your knowledge with our attendees today. And I guess we can all agree that this further development, especially to give more chances for our youth to thrive post this COVID pandemic, has to be a collaboration across different sectors. Because again, if we refer to the current global population, youth still is the biggest population, and we need to support them with all we can from the business sector, from the government side, from the nonprofit side, from the educational institution, to be able to help them adapt with the current ever-changing job market. So again, thank you so much. It's been an honor as well to moderate these overall discussions. And I would love also to say thank you to our GBI translator. Thank you so much of today's webinar. And don't forget to follow the social media also of G20, C20, and Y20 to get further updates, especially in regards to the working group activities leading to the upcoming G20 summit in November later. Thank you so much once again. We really appreciate your time, and hopefully this discussion can give you more insights about how we can support our youth to come back stronger. And with this, I would like to close the webinar and hope to see you again in another event. Bye, everyone.